Hey guys, George, and well, today in first period, there's a girl I really like, and I thought today, I'd finally get to talk to her, but it wasn't it, I thought I'd finally be like, oh yeah, hey, what's up, man? What's good, bro? And then she'd be like, hey George, oh my god, you're so awesome, but it didn't happen. So then I can't believe this happened. That I don't know what's wrong with me. What do I have to do to get a female to notice me? It's so hard. I did everything. Once I fell right in front of her just so she could be like, are you okay? And she didn't say that. Where's this going?
Oh man, George, that is such an awful thing. I can't imagine starting out your day that way. And I hope you guys can relate to this, having something like this happen when you have somebody that you really, really like and they're just not paying attention to you. And I can remember that happening to me a long time ago. There was this girl that I really, really liked, and I was so shy. But I did all these silly things, tried to sit next to her, tried to make sure I was walking by her class as she was leaving, or walk a weird way home to make sure I was walking in front of her house. She never noticed me. It never worked out. But something that I was certainly frustrated about when I was a kid, and we're going to talk about that. What does the Bible say about that? And the word crush, it is in the Bible, but it has nothing to do with this kind of a crush. Usually crush your enemies, that kind of a thing. And we're going to teach you how do you take these frustrations to God, and especially in this case, when it's not specifically outlined in the Bible. We're going to talk about that these next few sessions. But for this first one, we're going to talk about what to do when you're not being noticed by somebody that you like. And there's 4 things that I'm going to go over here. First one is you need to ask yourself, are they worth it? Second one is be friends first. Third one is don't obsess. And the last and the most important one is to keep God number 1 in your life. So the first one is, are they worth it? And I know you think they're worth it at this point. They're probably a very pretty, very good looking person. And I want you to look past that and get beyond the good looks. Bible tells us in Ephesians 5:15, it says, look carefully how you walk, not as unwise but wise. The Bible is telling us not to jump in, but to think before we do anything, and before we get too wound up about this girl. So the first thing is get past their looks. I know they're probably very attractive, but there's so much more to a person than their looks. And the second one is, do they go to church? I think that's really important. Find out what church they belong to. And even if they go to church, find out, do they follow Jesus? Do they participate in church? Do they follow Jesus as their Lord? Do they understand who He is? And then the next one I think is important. How do they act towards others? Are they a jerk? You don't want to hang around someone like that. So the first thing is make sure they're worth it. You don't need to lower your standards to get someone to notice you. Make sure your standards are nice and high before you get in too far. Second one is be friends first. How many times have you heard about relationships that ended up in a great marriage, or a couple that's gone out together for a very long time, and they tell you, well, we started out as friends first? And I can definitely attest to that. Chris and I definitely started out as friends before any romantic interest started there. But there's a reason for that. To get to know someone first on a friend's level is common sense, really. And the Bible has this phrase called guarding your heart. And this is Proverbs 4:23 in the NIV this time. The person that wrote Proverbs tells us, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And we have to, before we lay that heart out there in a romantic situation or anything even close to that, we need to guard it and protect it. It's a very fragile organ, and when that gets hurt, it can show up in a lot of different ways inside of you. So guard your heart, be friends first with this person. Third one is don't obsess. Don't obsess. I know girls, I'll see girls practicing writing the last name of their crush with their first name on it, on a sheet of paper 1,000,000 times. And guys, I'll be thinking about this girl over and over and over. And then, like I said earlier, maybe walking home different ways to make sure you cross paths with this person. We got to keep an eye on that you're not obsessing. And that's hard to do in yourself. And this is where a good friend would come in to play here. And remember our series on friends. I'm not talking about an acquaintance here. I'm talking about somebody that has the same values as you. You should tell them, hey, I really like this girl. Can you make sure I'm not going off the deep end about this girl or this guy? That I'm not obsessing over her. It'd be great to find a friend to make sure that you're reacting in a positive way, not a negative way. And that's good old Proverbs 27:17. We've talked about this several times. Iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. So give them permission to look at your life. Fourth one is to keep God number one. Now, for some of you, you may need to put God back at number one. If you're obsessing over somebody, they might have creeped up ahead of God. You got to be aware of that. I mean, this is an exciting thing, having these feelings, wanting somebody to like you. God built us that way. He built us for relationships. So this is part of God's plan, but at the same time, He needs to stay number one. So again, this is a good place for a friend to have you could just have an honest check-in with them. How am I doing? Am I letting this person have too much of my time? And remember these things about God when it comes to this thing. He is in control. If He wants your crush to notice you, He's going to make that happen. He is in control. And He loves you even if your crush never notices you. Make sure you understand that as well. He died for you. He has plans for you. He wants to grow you in your relationship with Him. Be patient. Be patient. God has this. Don't get ahead of yourself. And the verse here that I love is Matthew 8:25 through 27. It says, therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is life not more important than food, and the body more important than clothing? Look at the birds in the air. They neither sow nor reap, nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? And which of you, by being anxious, can add a single hour to his span of life? God's basically saying, chill. I got this. If I'm going to feed the birds and take care of them, I'm going to take care of you as well. I know the emotions and the feelings you're having, but just keep it cool. Pay attention to those four things and know that God has your back, and keep your focus on Him. So we're going to give you some time in your small groups to take a look at this. And I wonder about George and his bad day. You think it could get any worse? Check into next week and we'll find out together.